Alrighty, mofos. So up to this point, we started creating the basic structure of a crawler, and we can kind of figure out, or kind of starting to see how it's going to work. Basically, it's going to go through some website. Let me get out of this home page. Been looking at that thing for a while. And it's going to go ahead and gather a bunch of links. Now, every time it finds a link, it's going to go ahead and add it to the waiting list right here. And then once it goes to that page and crawls it, it's going to add it to this crawled file right there. Simple enough. But we already have a problem, and that is that this method that I just explained, it's going to be slow. The reason for that is because whenever you write to a file in a Python program, writing to file operations are slow. And I say slow relatively because nothing is really slow for a computer. It's going to take like a couple thousandths of a second, not really that slow. But whenever you're crawling tens and thousands of pages, it's going to be noticeably slower than if you were to just use variables. So why don't we just use variables? Well, the bad thing about using variables is if our program ever stops, or if we encounter a bug or our computer shuts off, all of that data is going to be lost. So let's think about this. We can either use files, and then it's a little bit slower, but our data is always saved, and we don't have any problems if our computer shuts down. Or we can use variables, which is going to get the job done a lot quicker, and but we don't have the security of data loss. But you know what? F that. Let's go ahead and get the best of both worlds. So this is how we're going to set up our web crawler. What we're going to do is whenever we are working with this data, we're going to store it in a set. Now a set is kind of like a list, but with a list, you can have items like bacon, tuna, apples, bacon, essentially duplicate items. So you can have bacon 3 times. Now what we want to do is we're just working with a bunch of URLs, so we want to store them in a set. Now a set can only have unique elements. So let's say that we have a set and it has bacon and tuna in it. If you go ahead and try to add bacon again, it's not going to add it. It's just going to keep bacon and tuna. So the reason we want unique elements is because let's say that we were adding items to the waiting list. Well, we came across beauty, and then we were on another page and came across beauty again. We don't need to add beauty, this URL, to the waiting list twice. It's already in there. Same thing with the crawled. Once you crawl a page, you don't need to add it to the crawled file every single time you crawled it. Once it's in there, it's good. Now, another cool thing is that once we have 2 unique sets, we ensure that we don't have any crossover. So, in other words, beauty is never going to be in the waiting list and the crawled list. It's going to be in the waiting list, and then once it's crawled, it's going to be moved to the crawled list. So anyways, like I'm saying, sets solve everything. So while we're working with the data, we're going to go ahead and use sets because it's a lot quicker. And then periodically, we're going to go ahead and take that data and save it to files. So pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is create 2 more functions. The first one is how to convert the links in file to a set. And the second one is how to convert the items in a set and save them to a file. Really simple stuff. So the first one I'll make is I'll just do file to set. So I'll say read a file and convert each line to set items. So again, later on, we're going to have a project file, and we'll say we have the waiting list. Now the waiting list is going to have, I don't know, 30 different URLs in it waiting to be crawled. So what this function is going to do is it's going to read that file and convert it to a set. And that way we can use it in our Python program a lot quicker. So def file to set. And of course, all we need is a file name. Let me go ahead and add that underscore. All right, so I spelled it R-E-S-U-L-T-S. What the heck was it giving me a red line? Stupid little PyCharm. Probably typed it wrong. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to create an empty set, and then we're going to loop through that file line by line. So with open, file name, RT, that means read text file as F. So again, we just refer to the file that we're reading as f. What we want to do with that file is loop through each line in that. So this is actually pretty easy for line in f. And this is just going to iterate through a file one line at a time. What we want to do is for our set, which is empty right now, it's named results, we just want to take each line and add it to the set. So, not len. All right. So that's going to give us our line right there. Now there is, this looks pretty good right now. And this is going to work, but there is one little issue. You remember how whenever we wrote each item, or whenever we're sticking each link in the file, we added this new line character. And that was just so whenever you're looking at the files, all of the URLs aren't bunched up together on the same line. It just made it easier to read for humans. Well, now the thing is, we got the URL, but we also have that new line character on there. So whenever we read it into a set, we don't want that new line character, we just want the URL. So what we can do is this. We need to go ahead and replace. And replace is a built-in function. It takes two parameters. The first one is what character are you trying to replace? We're trying to replace that new line character. And the second one is what do you want to replace it with? So we're just going to go ahead and replace it with nothing. And this is essentially just saying, hey, you know that URL plus new line that we're reading in? Just go ahead and delete that new line part of it. That's all we're doing. Talking to this Python program like it's one of our friends. Hey man, you know that new line that you got over there? Just get rid of it. What am I talking about? All right, now looking good, and all we have to do here is return the results. So again, we're going to give it a file, say loop through each line, read the URL, and return them as a set. Looking sweet. Now this last one, I'm just going to convert a set to a file. So I'll say iterate through a set. Each item in the set will be a new line in the file. And def set to file. And since we're working with a web crawler, instead of set, and I can't even use the word set anyways because it's built-in keyword in Python, I'm just going to name it links because that's all our set's going to be, just a bunch of links. And so these are the links that we want to save to this file. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and call delete file contents. Now remember, what we can do is we can go ahead and delete whatever file because this is the old data. All of the data that is up to date is going to be stored in this set right here. So we can go ahead and get rid of that, and we don't want to append it on there because this is the good stuff right there, all the juicy links. And now what I can do is just start looping through this set. So say for link in links, so loop through links and treat each item as link. And actually, let me do this. Sorted link. All right, so you don't really have to do this, but what this is going to do is instead of just crawling and getting a bunch of URLs and just spewing them in a text file or writing them to a text file in random order, we can go ahead and sort them before. And then if we ever need to look at our data file, all the links are in alphabetical order, which is pretty cool. So go ahead and sort through all of the links that we gathered. And for each one, all we want to do is we want to add them to the end of whatever file that we want, either Q or curl. So add them to the end of the file. And again, this function that we made earlier takes two parameters, what file and what do you want to add on to the end of it? Well, whatever file we told you, and the link that you are currently iterating through. So now let me clean this up and check it out. We now have two functions where we can actually read in a file. So if we were, going to lunch and we just came back in and we want to run this program again, we can look at that file and read it into a set. And also, once we're running this for a while and our mom says, hey, you want to go out for ice cream? Mom, of course I do. I love ice cream. But first, let me save my data. We can go ahead and take that set and save it to a file. So boom roasted. I'm going to go eat some ice cream now. I will see you guys later.